On this week's episode, we're going to discuss Linux getting some mad gains in the market share and why we think it's happening. Welcome to Destination Linux, where we discuss the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source and Linux. My name is Michael, and I'm back.
Welcome back, Michael.
I missed you.
Yeah, I missed you so much.
Yeah,
I know you. I know you both did very much. It's after watching the previous episodes, Wendy did a great job, but you know, it's not me. It's the she did better than me. She did a little better.
I will tell you, Michael. I will tell you before Jill announces herself that there were people who reached out to me, true story, and said like, "Hey, Wendy did amazing what she did, but I miss Michael and use chemistry." So there's that,
really?
You know, because I know we only see the negative comments where they're like, "I wish Ryan would go away forever. I wish Michael would go away forever."
I saw that.
Actually, nice people out there that are like, "Hey, I missed you too." So that was nice. I just wanted to share that because me and you don't get that very often.
That's true.
Aww.
We talked about this last week when I kind of joined in the patron only post show because I had enough internet to do voice, and that was fun because I got to kind of listen to the show a little bit, and it was good because the shows that I missed are like super interesting topics that I really wanted to be on the show for. Like you spent you spent so much time talking about Borderlands, and I'm like, how could I miss what are you doing to me? Like,
yeah. You had to be punished for being gone. Like we missed you.
It was so awful. But Wendy did a fantastic job, and some people would argue a better job.
She'll be back subbing when any of us are missing in there. By the way, that was Michael you heard at the beginning. And who are you, Jill?
I'm Jill.
Oh, nice. And I'm Ryan. We kind of skipped that part.
Yeah, we kind of skipped that part. So also this week, we're going to discuss why Android is treated so poorly by the media. Plus, we've got some Linux gaming. Also, we have our spotlight and many more things. So let's get this show on the road toward Destination Linux.
So in our community feedback this week, it comes from Jason, and they have this to say: I have a Flatpak security question. Linux Mint's recent change to flag Flatpaks as verified or unverified got me to thinking, if the developer is not building the Flatpak, how do I know if malicious Melvin didn't package something bad in the Flatpak? How can I know that Flatpaks like Yubico and Bitwarden are safe and, more importantly, secure? Or should I just download and install those apps direct from the developer's site as .debs or whatever format they use? As always, thanks for all you do for the community, and I look forward to your reply, especially Jill. All right, so clearly Jason's a long-time listener there. Love it. So I prefer to get my packages, as you mentioned at the beginning, from FlatHub as they're curated. You can also check Flatpak manifest to see if it requires what permissions it's requiring and those type of things, which is a really nice feature they have with Flatpaks. And I would say if it's something you don't recognize or it's not a verified one, then you should be checking on developer credentials. Their update cadence could be a really important clue. And just, checking and seeing the type of out there Git, open source, what information is out there that you can read just like any other package. Because just because it's a deb, more curated, but doesn't mean there couldn't be something malicious in it as well. We've seen that in the past.
Also, I would argue
with
debs
other
are not more
packaging
curated
systems. Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I would argue that debs are a lot less curated because the repositories that they're in, they're only managed by a certain people who have access to that repository. So the amount of people who can manage it is a specific set number, usually under 100. So depending on the repo, it could be more, but it's around 100 usually. And there's also 10,000 packages. So put that number together.
There's more than that.
It's not going to be, it's not going to be like that curated. I think that they test to make sure that it's not going to break stuff, but I don't think they're going to be like scanning the code and making sure it's good or anything like that. And also deb files are arguably worse in that sense because they have the root permissions instantly. If you install a deb, you automatically are giving it root powers to do anything it wants to do. Whereas a Flatpak, has permission systems that are separate, and you can specify like I only want to do this certain feature. You only have access to this kind of portal, only access to a particular folder, that sort of thing, like a downloads folder, and that you could do all that with Flatpak. Whereas a deb, you just like have access to everything. So I'd argue that Flatpaks are safer in that sense than debs if you download the deb from like some random website. If you're getting the deb from the repository, you have like a higher likelihood of it being fine, but it doesn't mean it's guaranteed fine or it's not like fully curated in that sense.
Well, here's your tip of the week. You can, because we're going to just do the tip of the week now, Michael. Things have changed since you've been gone, Michael. We've moved the tip
very
of the
much.
week
That's super
right
early.
Up to the
I
front.
like it.
Right up to the front, super early. Fire jail. If you're going to do the .deb or other packages, not Flatpak, Michael reminded me, does not work on Flatpak.
That is correct.
But if you're downloading the .deb and other things, you can fire jail it. So you can fire jail Firefox, transmission, VLC, and those type of things, essentially kind of sandboxing them from what they can actually access.
Yeah, you can basically fire jail is adding a sandbox to whatever you want if it doesn't have a sandbox by itself. But if it like already has a sandbox and you add fire jail to it, it will pretty much just not work. And with app images, for example,
jail it too much.
Yeah, you just giving too much boxes and too much sand. It just kind of buried in the sand. But there's one option for app images. If you have app images, that is an option to use FireGel, because if you don't know, app images do not have any sandboxing whatsoever. So if you want to add sandboxing, FireGel is a good way to do that.
Or if you want a GUI for FireGel, you can use Fire Tools.
And
you can have a little
that's much easier to use. Yeah. FireGel is okay, but if you don't like command line, FireTools much better.
Yeah. And thank you again, Jason, for writing in, and really great questions. We were talking about this topic and your feedback for a while before we started the show, and generally, actually, to me, for more important security-based apps, I usually use the distros repositories like .debs or .dnfs. But I will also use a handy Flatpak if it is the only option available. Absolutely. And I do prefer generally Flatpaks over app images for security reasons. And but app images.
You don't know what
die in a fire? No.
I mean, you put
My God, Jill.
What's it?
I mean, I know we miss Wendy, but you don't have to say that to Michael.
It's hardcore. So hardcore.
Anyways, and Fire Tools sandboxed environment is actually excellent, and I have used that before in a pinch with especially my app images.
Yeah. Well, DNF, Michael, is the RPM package manager, in case you're wondering. So.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a .dnf.
Red hat.
.dnf.
I didn't mean to say .dnf. I just meant to say DNF.
Don't you miss Wendy now, Jill? I mean, he did that. Don't you?
I was wondering if there was a thing. I didn't know. It could be. There's file extensions like for every combination of letters.
There are, and there is probably a file extension that is a .dnf. But
let's look it up.
Find out. I typed in .dnf and got a lot of Chinese characters, so it might be something that I don't know in the browser.
I like die in a fire.
Jeez, Jill, please.
Dumpster fire.
The best part is like this is kind of. Yeah, this is, it's like that's kind of like an accidental nickname we've given to the package manager for RPMs.
Yes.
You know what? We need to let people know that Michael is working off of a temporary internet right now just to do this show. That's how dedicated he is. So if you do hear us talking over each other a little more than normal, or the show's a little more off the rails than normal, which I don't know how you would judge that, just know that we're having a little bit of connectivity fun because he's still waiting for his permanent internet, which is 100 terabytes per second he's getting. I think,
yeah, he's on a hotspot on his cell phone. So hard mode.
I wish I could have 100 terabytes
a second.
Yeah, if I could have 100 terabytes, I'd be so happy. I'd be like a giddy kid, like a kid in a candy store. But it's actually much less than that. But right now, I'm using the hotspot from my phone. So
it's working all right.
We'll see how well this works out.
Yes.
It'll be a dumpster fire. So, Jason, thank you for sending in your message. We made Jill wait till the very end before she could speak, since you said you wanted to know especially Jill's reply. So we saved the best for last. You're welcome. If you want to send in your comments and feedback, go to destinationlinux.net/comments or destinationlinux.net/forum, and you could be part of the show. In fact, you help make the show by sending in those comments. You help make the show better, get us things to talk about. People all the time talk about how they love community feedback, one of their favorite segments. That's you. That's you doing that stuff. We don't do anything there in this section.
We talk about the stuff they send us.
We don't do nothing. We just sit there.
We don't. We
Thank you for
basically
helping
don't.
make the show great.
You give us content and we riff off of that. So thank you.
We riff off your content. Do the work for us is what we're saying. Work for us.
Yes. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for doing our work.
The main topic this week, Michael, that I just was so excited about is Linux getting mad gains. Linux is hitting the gym. Let's hit in the gym hard. I mean, mad gains.
That's right.
And so many of us in the community, in fact, on this show many times, we've talked about the fact that Linux deserves to be recognized for its dominance, needs to be dominance, on the desktop. We know it's fantastic on servers. We know it's already got all the market share on servers and supercomputers and cloud and all of that stuff. But it deserves to dominate on the desktop as well. So very exciting to see that this month we hit a new height of 4.45% of the desktop market. That's huge. This is a major milestone. When you think about it, right? In 2023, we were excited about 2.76% of the market, right? And so going and getting to 4.45% is a big deal. And
just
for comparison, like Mac OS is about 14% and Windows is about 70%. So we got a long ways to go, but we're catching up fast. And think about how difficult it is to get people to change their desktop environment. So those percentage gains are huge, right? And we've gained it in a very small amount of time. So what I did is, those percentages are interesting, but I wanted to kind of turn that into maybe some real numbers for people. So I went to where everyone goes for their questions. Google Gemini, the AI. And I asked it, well, maybe chat. I just went to Google Gemini and I asked it to represent that in users, because percentages don't always, reflect in the mind how many people 4.45% is. So it calculated that there's approximately 1.5 billion desktop computers worldwide. And so 4.45% of 1.5 billion would be about 66.75 million users, which is quite a lot of people.
That seems like a good number.
Yeah. I want 300
And also
million.
that should be plenty enough. That should be plenty enough for get people to make software for it. If they knew it, but they always see these percentages and they think, oh, it's so small. It's only 4% or whatever. Like this is actually a huge number in comparison to like how many people actually use computers. It's also important to note, like you were saying, like when people switch over from Windows to Linux, that is a big jump because you're switching your operating system. Like it's not a simple thing of like, I'm changing browser. Because you can change your browser in like 10 seconds. You just download the thing and you install it, and it's not a big deal. Then you can go back and forth. An operating system, there's a bigger commitment there. So it's a much bigger deal when that's changing. And also this 4.45% is ridiculous considering how long I remember the platform sitting at like 1%. And we were happy that it goes from 1% to 1.2% and stuff like that. So going from like basically almost doubling from one year to the next is a huge change. So that is awesome. And thank you for Microsoft Recall for making that happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big part of it. Because when you were making that point, I was thinking switching your operating system generally is done out of two things. One is curiosity, security type of thing, or you're just really frustrated with your current operating system. Like the current operating system has to make you so mad. You're like, you know what? I'm going to wipe the whole machine and do all of this work and go on a learning curve just because it's that bad. And thankfully, the other operating systems have gotten just that bad that a lot of people, it's not just privacy and security, although that's a big reason for a lot of people. It's just the frustration out there. So also keep in mind that we don't really have good data on how many Linux desktop users are out there. There are hundreds of distros. Many of them collect zero metadata at all, if any. And many people that when they do have the metadata pop up say, no, I don't want to share any of that information. So there could be millions and millions of people out there, tens of millions of people, of users that we have no way of knowing they're using Linux, even if they are, which makes
this is just an estimate of how many based on stat counter, right? So they have a certain amount of people that go, they have a certain wide group of websites that people go to, and they don't say which websites, whatever, but they use that website network to kind of figure out how many people are going to whatever. And so it's a very small subset of what could be there. But it also, like you were talking about how some Linux distros, there are also some distros who are promoting the fact that they collect nothing whatsoever. They have no idea how many people are using it, which is an interesting tactic to, because it's, in my opinion, it's not the best approach to do that, because I feel like you'd get more benefits if you could say, this is how popular we are versus we don't know at all. There's that kind of thing. But there's also some distributions who are super popular. We know they're popular, but we don't know how much, because they also specifically say they don't pick up any of the metadata. So, it's not even, I think it's more of like probably double the amount of people who actually use it, because that's such a huge discrepancy of how many distros there are. Well, I think it's quintuple.
Quintuple.
Now you're getting ridiculous.
Well, I was thinking the same things, especially since these statistics are not accurate desktop usage of Linux. But to me, I look at it as more of a bellwether of its growth. And one of the reasons also, besides taking user statistics, is it's hard to track all the downloads of Linux, because people have Linux Live USB flash drives that they share, and they sneakernet over to another computer. Like
and
my
there's
students.
also like torrent downloads where the people who are not there, they could share it with someone else, and they also sometimes people will just upload it to their own servers or upload it to a Dropbox or whatever and share it to someone else that way, and kind of skip past the download options in the first place. So I think that every distro should consider adding some kind of metadata, even if the only thing you keep track of is machine ID. So that just means that this has been installed one time on this machine. When it's installed again, it gets another machine. You wouldn't really check to see that this is a different.
Rip that machine ID or something. I don't know. Maybe.
No. It's just a machine ID that is completely anonymous gibberish numbers.
Some identifier, right? Random.
But it's you don't want it to be the exact machine ID.
Not a Mac.
No. I'm saying a machine ID as like the term, because it's specific to that install. Now, if you reinstall, you get a new ID, but that previous ID will not be sending any information about it. So it'd be like kind of having a consistent basis, and like maybe once a month max, you would say, hey, this is how many IDs we have in existence, or that sort of stuff. That way we could see how many downloads that have done, how many installs have been done, and how many people are continuously using that particular thing. Some distributions do have this built in, and some do not. And I think everyone should have at least this. Now, there's some people who want more information like GPU and CPU and all that sort of stuff. That is something that could be discussed and like debated, but at least
that's
something to identify an installation, I feel like is a bare minimum sort of thing.
Absolutely, Michael.
We're happy with the 4%. We want it to be like 14, right? To overtake Mac. But I want to talk real quick about why we think Linux became so popular. And I think you can't really start this conversation without talking about Valve.
Absolutely.
The Steam Deck has survived the onslaught of competitors out there. ROG, everybody trying to make their own little viable gaming platform device. Obviously, we have to talk about Wine and Proton in that conversation, because those two things, right? The Steam Deck would not be successful without those. And we would still be playing like a handful of games at best. So I think Steam Deck is one of the ones where we have to say major player, major exposure to Linux, and made gaming viable. And, a lot of people are like, I don't care about gaming. That's fine. You don't have to care about gaming. But keep in mind, it's bigger than music and movies combined. So if you don't have gaming, a lot of people won't come to the platform. So Valve bringing gaming to the table, huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys
And also
think?
Valve is doing so much for the platform because they're focusing on only providing a Linux solution for their hardware. And that's what's making it so beneficial. And then they're also making sure that the games that work on Steam Deck are very likely to work on your Linux desktop, which is just a fantastic thing to see. So like there's so much thing you have to give like massive credit to Valve, because without them, I mean, we would still be growing, but I feel like this is completely me just remembering thing. I could be recalling incorrectly because I don't have Microsoft Recall. And but it could be that the growth pace has exploded since 2018 when they announced Proton. And if that is the case, which I feel like it probably is, I think it's kind of like a lot correlated to Valve making this process going. I don't think it's just Valve, but I think they started the momentum to do it. And that's what's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the penetration of the Raspberry Pis in the schools and for hobbyists and industrial and IoT. I mean, that's huge. It's the top selling computer in the world. So all these people are being exposed to it, and the Linux desktop with Raspberry Pi OS.
Yep.
So
no, I think
that's definitely in there.
Raspberry Pi is a genius one to bring up. I didn't even think about that. Usually I do, but I didn't think of this time. But Jill, you got it covered, which is good. Microsoft, their gift of Windows 11 recall, like Michael mentioned, all of that. The boring nature
of recall.
Yeah, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Like whoever decided that was a good idea, just you need to get a completely, not necessarily saying you should be fired, because this is a really weird market to be fired from, but you should definitely pivot into something else where you have some level of experience and some skill, because you clearly do not have skill when it comes to making decisions for your platform.
Yeah. So I think too, when we look at the fact that, the general public, I think, is more in tune with privacy and security than ever before, this is a big one to credit. And a lot of people roll their eyes at this like, no, I don't really think the public cares and things. If that were true, Apple wouldn't have spent millions of dollars on their latest commercials, which, if you haven't seen, are basically cameras flying around, go around a user and watching everything they're doing, and basically says something like, join Apple and get your privacy back. So they've also been known to take out full-size ads in papers about their privacy and security and things. So Apple clearly sees that there's a market here, enough to spend millions of dollars on advertising to kind of push it, to say, hey, this is a big deal. Privacy is a big deal. People care about this. This is one of the reasons they choose Apple phones, because of that, at least presence of privacy and security, or what do you call it? Like a blanket that makes them feel like there's privacy and security there, whatever you want to call
blanket.
it. They've done a very good job of marketing themselves as the privacy and security solution. And people seem to care about that. So
Ryan, you call those a binky.
A binky. Yeah. That's right. A little binky.
Aww.
Apple binky.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I found really interesting is that in July of 2024, the Linux desktop usage went up to 4.45% from June's 4.05%. So that's huge too, just in the 1 month. Yeah. And this is according to the StatCounter statistics website we've been talking about, whose statistics keep the Linux category separate from that of Google's Chrome OS. This is interesting because the Linux desktop usage is actually higher than Chrome OS's. And even though Chrome OS is technically, it's Linux with a Google overlay on top, sort of.
Like Android. Yeah.
But it's closer than Android. So, and what's
awesome
interesting,
because Chrome OS, it's awesome because Chrome OS is usually expected to be higher, and everybody, when people first started talking about like Linux's market share is growing, they would always say, "Oh, well, of course Chrome OS is doing," but that's not actually, that has nothing to do with it. And that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think one other thing I found interesting is that Chrome OS is listed at 1.41% for July, which actually went down from the previous months. And I was thinking about this. Okay, I think that's because children being out on summer vacation from school, because they are the main client for Chrome OS and Chromebooks.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was thinking, Linux usage went up, desktop usage went up, and Chrome OS went down in the summer. And the fact that I think it's tracking that is saying a good thing about these statistics.
Mm.
Yeah, it could be also like
Mm.
kids in schools are given Chromebooks, and then they get so limited that they, during the summer, like, hey, we get to keep this till next year. Let's play with it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
So, Linux has gotten so big and has so many gains that I've decided to release my book, Kicking Linux into Gear. This is my new book you can get your hands on, coming out really soon.
Oh
Look
my
at this.
gosh,
Look
Ryan,
at this.
that's
Isn't that
amazing.
fantastic?
Why?
Kicking Linux into Gear, a telecom geek's journey through open source.
Hey, that's so great, Ryan. Could you read a passage from your book?
Oh,
Yes.
I absolutely would love to. First, I'd like to tell you some of the chapters, like The Geek Awakens, Welcome to the Open Source Jungle, Gold's Gym Galore, because we talk about games, right?
Open source jungle.
Yeah. We've got The Wrath of Khan, a geek's guilty pleasure. Control Alt Geek, the power trio. Like, I really worked hard on this. Hijinks and hard drives, from Terminal to Trek, Geek Culture Fusion. So I'd like to read you a passage from my book.
Yes, please read us
Ryan,
the passage.
how come I didn't even know you were working on this book?
Well, Jill, let's see.
He thought about it for like 5
chapter
minutes, and he saw a thing, and he could just build one, and he's like, "Yeah,
Shut
this
up,
is going to be a great
All
trip."
right, so The Wrath of Khan, a geek's guilty pleasure. A cinematic impact of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. As I sit here reflecting on the movies that have shaped my peculiar blend of telecommunications geekery and cybersecurity aspirations, it becomes painfully clear that none had the colossal cinematic impact of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Released in 1982, this masterpiece didn't just reinvigorate my childhood obsession with science fiction, it twisted my brain into a pretzel of philosophical quandaries, friendships in peril, and some serious questionable hairstyle choices. Because really, who could forget Captain Kirk's dazzling mane or Khan's unique fashion sense? That's just one passage from my book.
So that's
I feel
There's lots of praises for my book too.
To be able to hear this.
There's lots of phrases. Tech Chronicles, Open Source Examiner, all of them have talked about how big of an impact this book.
So who wrote the forward for your book, Ryan?
I'm going to say...
Jill wrote the forward for it.
Jill wrote the forward?
I didn't invite
she didn't even know that was you were making it. So how did she write the forward?
So instead of Khan, I'm going to say, Ryan!
There you go. So
that's a fantastically AI written book.
This was a birthday gift from my wife, by the way. She had this AI written book with look at those guns, though. The gains.
That's awesome.
If you're not watching the video version of this podcast, you got to check it out. Kicking Linux into Gear.
Much.
Yeah, by DOS Geek. Get your copy.
That's
it's only $200 a piece, and it's
it's only available in his closet. And there's only one, so it's very expensive. It's priceless.
I figured
I
now
want one autographed.
You want an autograph? Of course, Jill.
Yes.
Of course you get an autograph one. She's the only person in line.
What's funny is that as far as YouTubers go, the fact that we have not released a book or some kind of course or something is astounding, because everybody typically does. Yeah. So now I'm actually thinking maybe you should write this book, Ryan.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it looks good. It looks
awesome.
Like I think I could do a killer book there. But Mad Gains. So now you get the connection there, Michael. My kicking
Mad Gains and AI written in my book. That's perfect.
Oh,
shut up!
And I would be honored to do your foreword, Ryan.
Oh, I'm going to actually make this happen. Let us know if you're interested in my book. I will keep the same chapter names because those are dope. The old Star Trek reference.
Yes, I love that.
In the Gold's Gym. All right, Michael, let's divert this whatever this show is and talk
whatever's happening right now.
Let's talk about AI
though,
since we got the book.
It's perfect because we have a topic to talk about AI, which fits right in with your AI written book. So
Yeah.
the OSI has released an open source AI definition. Now, some people might be
Ooh,
thinking,
exciting.
who cares? Or like, so what? Well, this is actually a very important step to ensuring that open source continues to be a major player in the new AI world that we live in. But how much will this change and we're going to talk about that, but let's talk about like what this actually includes. So the OSI answered to this question in their manifesto, but we're giving an excerpt because if you want to read the whole thing, we'll have it linked in the show notes. But it says, for AI, society needs the same essential freedoms of open source to enable AI developers, deployers, and even users to enjoy those same benefits: autonomy, transparency, frictionless reuse, and collaborative improvement.
Sing it.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
They also go
that's
on
huge.
to say that open source AI is an AI system made available under terms in a way that grant the users various freedoms. For example, use the system for any purpose and without having to ask for permission. Study how the system works and inspect its components. Modify the system for any purpose, including to change its output, and then share the system for others to use with or without modifications for any purpose. Now, one of the companies you might be thinking leading the way in open source AI is a company called OpenAI. It's not. It's completely proprietary. They are jerks because they used to be open and then they decided to change it while keeping the name OpenAI, which is very confusing when you go online and you search for Open AI and then you find their nonsense, which is nothing at all to do with openness.
Yeah,
I'm a little bitter
true
about that.
But the company that is pushing OpenAI, actually open source AI, is Meta. Facebook.
Yeah.
See,
Facebook
exactly.
people.
That's why you said it that way, because it makes you think about OpenAI. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg and Daniel Ek, that's the CEO of Spotify, is working hard to get the EU on board with open source AI, as they believe the regulations and laws there currently in place are making EU fall behind the AI revolution. And they believe open source is the way for them to catch up. So without open source AI, we place AI in the hands of only a few mega corporations. And we know how well that tends to work out when monopolies take over entire organizations.
Don't you just love monopolies?
I, for one, think this is super important to define what is open source AI. And what is expected of open source AI. And especially when you're dealing with a mega corporation like Meta and others who are seemingly wanting to do the right thing, you need to have these definitions in place to make sure they play by those rules that they help define. And these rules sound fantastic to me. Like, these are all the things that I expect to hear when we talk about open source: the transparency, the ability to obviously utilize or look into the code and make changes to it and do modifications. All of this speaks open source to me very well. And, they were trying to, remember when there was like articles about we need to bomb AI, open source AI data centers.
I remember saying that it was dangerous.
Dangerous.
Or it's particularly dangerous or something like that. And they just regurgitated nonsense that the AI probably wrote.
It wasn't as good as this AI. But.
Yeah. In fact, that
which
was
AI
one of the
did you use to make that? Do you know?
I don't know. It was given to me as a gift from my wife.
I know. So you should ask her which AI it was.
It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's a great idea. It's a great joke. But in the first, going forward, we're going to need. Yeah. Exactly. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that you need to have the book in the background in your bookcase or something, prompt very clearly in the future episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at those guns, by the way. Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at those guns.
Those aren't noodle arms. Those are real guns.
Yeah, real guns.
No, they're 100% noodle arms.
Now, Jill, you've been trying to say something, Jill.
Yeah, that's okay.
Interrupting because his connection's terrible.
It's just my connection. I'm not being a jerk, just to be clear, people.
I know. So we've actually, because of dangerous articles about saying dangerous articles, because it was a dangerous article about saying open source AI is dangerous. Well, we have talked about the many benefits of open source AI in the past, many times before here on Destination Linux. and the importance of open source with its systems of checks and balances as a protection to closed source software and AI, and the speed of AI innovation that can occur because of open source. So there are just so many reasons why AI needs to be open source. But we still have to be careful about making sure that we have those guardrails and create that framework that keeps everyone safe, which we have talked about also in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is good work. It sounds simple. It sounds like so what definition, but again, these are the guiding principles we'll go forward with open source.
I
And
mean,
I'm glad
before
they
we
made
had open source, we're having a definition. We didn't have anything to call it. So it's important that these things are made so that we have something to
Yeah.
refer to them, and having a consistent definition. And the OSI, the Open Source Initiative, is basically the creators of the term open source. And and there's debate of who created it, but basically it's that the OSI was made around the same time the term was made. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's very important because I feel like open source is not the best term for this. I think I'll make a video on that because I have a different idea. And and if you're curious, no, it's not free software. That's much worse. But
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Ryan.
Okay, all right.
Why does the media hate Android?
Really good question, Michael. You know what? I might write a book about it. We're not even
You
going to
should.
cover it here.
You should.
I'll write
Yeah.
a book about why.
Write a
No,
book
so
or a
every
pamphlet.
week I'm doing research for the show, and I look up news for Android, looking for articles, and what I see when I type Android into the news sections of various browsers and things is a whole bunch of articles on major security flaws and issues with new malware-riddled apps on Android. Now, I want to be clear that Google has a lot of responsibility here for some of these issues because of their lax permission system and their rating system, which I've gone into before. However, that's not the whole story. And it's really starting to kind of bug me when I've been seeing this kind of bias in the media when it comes to Android. You see, Apple, in almost every case, also has these same vulnerabilities. This week, I was looking through all the major vulnerability articles out there, and it was interesting because they were all titled with Android, but maybe not the one article, but if you keep digging in the articles, you'll eventually find, usually at the very end,
Yeah.
something that says something like Apple users are impacted too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't start with that. It doesn't say Android and Apple users are impacted by this major malware. It just says Android. And there was a recent article republished all over the internet, and it stated Android users' fingerprint and credit card data is at risk. And it talks about security research and some apps that are, again, stealing data. But what it adds at the end of the article, and I mean the very, very end of the entire article, all the paragraphs, is we studied the Android system because of the open nature of its platform. But similar security flaws are likely present in the iPhone ecosystem as well. We see much less public security research on iPhones due to Apple's closed approach, which forces researchers to first reverse engineer essential information that is publicly available when you're dealing with Android. So, this is very interesting to me because Google kind of gets, or the Android devices specifically, gets hit with all of this stuff from security researchers because it's open source and they can go in there and look at the code without having to reverse engineer it. Whereas Apple users may be walking around with tons more vulnerabilities, but it takes so much work to reverse engineer things to check that they don't really know. Or they're not going to spend the time to do it, which is why one of the reasons why Android gets lambasted out there. So you could be completely vulnerable to these attacks. Governments, if you think about it, like when you look at the dark web and you hear about these government programs like Pegasus and things like that, they've been easily talk about breaking into Apple iPhone devices and Android devices alike. But the media seems to only target Google, and I think it's not fair. I don't think it's fair.
I was wondering if maybe Newsweek, who wrote this article, has a contract on the back end with Apple. Maybe there's something going on.
Interesting.
Yeah, because that is a thing when you have sponsors and people that help fund you. You got to be careful with what you say sometimes.
That's true.
I mean, there is probably that too. I was kind of thinking that similar because it's kind of like, why do they only focus on Android? And I think it's possible that the security researchers are having access, makes it easier for them to find it. So there's more talk about it because there's just more things they found and that sort of stuff. So I feel like that plus I don't know about if they have like a deal, probably, but I don't know if they do or not. And but at the same time, there's also the factor of marketing because Android is the bigger platform by a lot. So it could even just be that more people are looking for Android articles and Android security. So there's even that factor. So I feel like all of these combined is like the reason why they do it. But I feel like it's still very sketch because why do you not want to have Apple and Android at the same time? You could be like Android and Apple are, or Android and iPhone are attacked by these things. And, why focus on the one if this is also possible,
Because I'm pretty sure Apple's market dominant in US, whereas Android's
Yeah.
market dominant
Yes.
worldwide. So
It is
you would
true.
think they would want to go after both in the conversation, but they don't. I did ask Gemini again another question. I'm on a Gemini kick. I asked Google's own AI
Apparently,
system,
for
if
some
you're not
reason.
familiar. That's what Gemini is. Why the Apple? So I asked Google, why is Apple App Store more secure than Google Play Store? And it gave me this response. Apple has a more curated approach, takes a more curated approach to its App Store with stricter review process for app submissions. Cloud ecosystem. Apple's iOS ecosystem is more closed than Android, making it harder for malware to infiltrate and spread. This can provide an added layer of security. Privacy focus. Apple has made privacy a significant focus in recent years, implementing features like app tracking transparency and differential privacy to protect user data. Hardware integration. Apple's control over both hardware and software allows for tighter integration measures. The reputation being that, the basically consumer influence there. And it does say at the end, it's important to note that both App Store and Play Store had significant strides in improving security and privacy. Google has also implemented measures like Play Protect to scan apps for malware and has taken steps to enhance user security. So to me, when I was reading that, I'm like, man, even Google's AI knows that about Google's own weaknesses in Android. And they could,
you should ask the
go in there and
question to
fix
Google
some of that
Gemini
stuff.
or something else. Why is Google Play Store more secure? And see what it says. Because I feel like it's going to claim that it is more secure and just give you reasons.
Well,
because you
I'll
kind of
ask Gemini.
prompted it and said, hey, why is it more secure? And then it'll give you answers why it's more secure. And I feel like if you said, why is this one more secure? It'll still give you stuff.
Wait a minute. This is AI. It's supposed to correct me if I'm wrong, not go along with my
No,
nonsense.
it's what it's supposed to do is just make up nonsense and just figure it out, hopefully like, hey, it's good enough.
That's the future, Michael. That's the future.
So I actually kind of wrote down things that I don't do on my phone as I was reading this article. Like I don't use the fingerprint feature nor the face recognition software because of security reasons. That's just me. And I probably will never use my Android phone for my state ID card and Google Wallet until I deem it as more secure. I do use a credit card on my phone, but the credit card is for internet use only. So I'm very careful. I don't do banking on my phone either. It's just part of my being very secure, trying to be as secure as possible.
That is great. You should be secure as possible. And if you want to follow the step, you follow someone follow their footsteps. Jill is a great person to be following that because she does care about security that much. And you should do those kinds of things if you are interested in that sort of stuff. I do not do those things.
Jill is also unhackable. She has a shirt that says so.
Yeah, you can see on her shirt right there. It says it.
I still have my passwords on floppy disks encrypted.
And if you want to follow Jill's footstep and become unhackable, you can. You just go to tuxsizzle.com/store and you can get your very own I'm Unhackable t-shirt.
So I asked Gemini, I said, why is Google Play Store more private and secure than Apple App Store? And it says, it starts off the very first paragraph. The assertion that Google Play Store is inherently more private and secure than Apple App Store is debatable.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Google.
It's telling some truth there.
So I guess the AI isn't making up stuff. Okay.
Then it gives me the breakdown of Apple is known for stricter app review process. Apple often rejects apps that don't adhere to its guidelines.
So it actually answered your question again the different way. Okay, good.
Yeah, so
now we know.
Now we know. Thanks, Google. We appreciate you putting down your own product with your own product, which is fascinating. All right. Man,
but I will say that real quick, I have an iPhone because of a lot of the terms that, like, a lot of the reasons that are like making the convenience factor. Like, is iPhone and Apple more secure than Google? Well, you could debate that you can make it even more secure with all these other tools, and you can replace the OS and have graphene or whatever, and you can have a super locked down Android. You can totally do that. But by default, the Apple's ecosystem is more locked down and more private and that sort of stuff. And my favorite thing is that the Face ID stuff, when you do it on an iPhone, it's stored on the iPhone. You don't actually have to send your face data to the company. Whereas Google, last I checked, they could have changed it. Last I checked, they did send your face data. So I never, when I had an Android phone, I never used the Face ID, the face data stuff.
Yeah.
Then I got an iPhone, and it's awesome. Face ID tracking is awesome because I can log in with just holding it to my face, and that's awesome. Now, if I ever shave my beard, that will be a big problem. But other than that, it's pretty cool. You know what else is pretty cool? Our gaming topic we're going to be covering.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, these creatures may have been AI generated. I'm just kidding. So our game this week is called Ash and Adam's GOBSMACKed, and it describes itself on Steam like this. You are a goblin gladiator in the mini FPS roguelike. Fight your way through the arenas, wreck junk bots, delete the crowd, get paid, and cause chaos.
Delight the crowd.
These goblins could have been AI.
Be different.
Yeah. So this is actually an early access game, but it looks like a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun. I had tried a demo of it quite a while ago, and that demo is not available anymore. But yeah. So, and what's fun is you get to be a gladiator, but not just any gladiator, a quirky goblin gladiator, and smash, tear, and shoot your way through colorful waves of procedurally generated gladiator arenas while performing for adoring fans. And it's a new release with 12 positive reviews, and one you might want to check out for some extreme gaming fun. Ash and Adam's GOBSMACKed is only $7.99 on Steam.
Oh, it does look like a lot of fun. I watched the trailer and I thought, this is so silly, but also I kind of want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that shader view, right? It's that shader graphics, almost like
the shader
cell
graphics.
Shading. Yeah, cell shading.
Yeah. And it's just so very colorful and vibrant and fun and action-packed.
Speaking of cell shading, let's talk about Borderlands, because I missed that topic.
No, you can't go back. You missed it.
Oh,
shouldn't have moved. Your fault.
Borderlands is awesome.
Isn't Gobsmack like a candy, or am I thinking maybe it's a band?
Gobstoppers.
Gobstoppers and Godsmack. Man, there's a lot of Gobsmack.
Yeah. You put them together and you get Gobsmacked.
Yes.
You know what? I love turtles. Anybody else love turtles?
Yeah,
I like turtles.
I do. Yay.
Tell us about turtles.
Okay, so Mavis Beacon used to be the only player teaching typing, but now we have a typing turtle. Our software spotlight, as Michael and Ryan bust up laughing, our software spotlight this week is Typing Turtle, where if you need help typing yourself, or you want to have your kids learn to type in a more fun and interactive way, you can use this app. It features a sequence of lessons designed to gradually introduce students to touch typing, teaching them a few keys at a time until they have mastered the entire keyboard. And there are fun typing games, graphics, sounds, and characters to interact with. Typing Turtle is actually brought to us by the fine folks over at Sugar Labs. And it was originally created for learning touch typing on the one laptop per child XO laptop. And make sure to check out my Jill's Treasure Hunt from Destination Linux episode number 241 from way back ago, where I talk about and show and demonstrate my laptop per child XO-1 laptop.
That was a great segment, a great treasure hunt. And also, I love your way of describing it way back ago.
Yeah, way back ago, like the Wayback Machine. Yeah. And Typing Turtle is now available as an easy-to-install Flatpak over at flathub.org. So it's really brilliant. It's a great little program to learn typing, and it's great for kids and adults alike.
I will say that the aesthetic could be a little bit improved. It made me think that they made that it sort of looks like it was made in the same era that Mavis Beacon was made, because
yeah, it was originally made for the low resolution graphics of the one laptop per child. So that's one of the reasons.
Which does not exist anymore, right? I don't think they make this anymore. So let's update it to work on some other, just want to make it work on a Raspberry Pi. There you go.
Yeah.
Go. Well, I love this type of stuff because, typing's barely even covered in schools anymore. I have two young school children, and handwriting is never covered. Writing skills are barely covered these days, and typing is pretty much taken over everything. So I think it's very important for kids to learn this skill, become very good at it. I don't know if anyone will ever be even able to sign their name in the future, but they will be able to type it. So there's that.
No. So they might not be able to write their name in a correct way of you could read it, but they'll be able to sign it, because we've all learned from doctors that you could just do scriggly, scraggly, and that's it.
Actually, I learned from you. You could just put a smiley face in there.
That is what you did.
Yeah, we found that out.
That is technically when you do it on electronic machines and stuff like that. When it's a receipt, you kind of have to do a regular one. But when it's on an electronic machine, you can just put a smiley face, and then it will still work, because those do nothing. Just so you know.
Huh. Yep, Michael's right. I've seen him do it a million times. Just the smiley face.
And the first part, I did it. I forgot what we were doing, but we were traveling for one of the conferences, and I was filling out something, and then I did it just because it's a habit I have, and I didn't think of anything, and then I turn over and Ryan is just laughing, like what's going on? What happened? And then I'm like, oh yeah, smiley face, yeah, of course you could do that.
Yeah, I had no idea. You just draw stuff; they don't ever check it. Well, that's our show. We thank you for watching or listening. However you do it, Destination Linux, we love your faces. We love that you stick with us, even when we have connection problems and talk all over each other and have a crazy wild show. But the topics were dope. You can't deny that. And make sure to pick up your copy of Kicking Linux into Gear, available sometime in the future.
You continue to shield a book that does not exist.
Shut up, Michael. It's going to exist. Join us on Discord by going to tuxdigital.com/Discord and put your pre-orders in for my book on Discord.
If you put hashtag Ryan's book in the Discord, nothing's going to happen. Just so you can.
No, I will count those. And if there's enough of them that I can make a profit, the book may become a reality. And if you want to watch the show live, you can become a patron of Destination Linux. It's just one of the many perks out there, Michael. Just one.
One of the many perks. There's so many perks. You can join us on the Discord server by going to tuxdigital.com/Discord. And when you become a member, a patron, you get access to a special only section for patrons on that Discord server. And you can join by going to tuxdigital.com/membership and signing up. And in addition to that, you also get other stuff. Like, for example, you get access to their patron only post show that happens every week after the show. And I'm laughing because I just realized we didn't activate the thing for this week.
Well, we had a connection problem, so we probably would have knocked us off.
Yeah.
I almost guarantee it would not have worked. It's almost a guarantee.
Next week, though, patrons will be back in.
Yeah.
With us.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, technically, it wouldn't have. We're barely able to do this show now, so adding an extra connection probably would have guaranteed that.
We're barely intelligent enough to do the show when we have good connections, let alone when we have bad.
No, you should have just ended the sentence of barely intelligent enough to just, that's it. Barely intelligent enough.
Intelligent enough to exist.
Also, if you want to support the show and the network, you can go to tuxdigital.com/store and you can get all sorts of cool mugs. We have merch. I was trying to say merch and mugs at the same time and it came mugs. I don't know, whatever. So you get t-shirts, hoodies. We got mugs. We got so much more. We don't have those. We will at some
That was
point, hopefully.
swag from Scale.
That we definitely don't have that. That is a license nightmare. We're no way ever going to do that. So for those who are curious, he held up a Batman figure.
There's a little
I don't even want to know what that is. So we're going to move on.
Rocktopus.
So,
Yeah.
Rock as an octopus.
Rocktopus.
It's a rocktopus.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so.
It's the rock's head with octopus tentacles. It's a rock.
Pugscissors.com/store, people. If you, for some reason, you appreciate Ryan's nonsense, I guess you could go there and
support it.
Buy some DOS Geek stuff or other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balls.
Maybe we could have like a Rocktopus T-shirt. I don't know. Maybe that's something that you could do.
That's something. Yeah. And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with gooky geekness. Check out This Week in Linux for your source for Linux weekly news.
It's all right.
It's the best. You're right. Thanks,
Which
Ryan.
is a weekly video podcast that Michael hosts that takes you through all the happenings of Linux and open source each and every week. And it will be returning, I'm sure, this week or next week.
My plan is to return. We're planning to return this week. It hopefully will happen.
So that means next week.
Yay, Michael. That's wonderful.
It'll happen this week. I'm just saying, like, the connection issue, I don't know if this is important to the show, but this is interesting. So we actually had an installation scheduled for a couple days ago, or like early this week. And then for like a week passes when we actually scheduled it to when they said they could come. And that's in where I'm used to, where I'm from. I'm used to be able to like just call them and they come like the next day. So they said, okay, it's a week. And I'm like, well, that's a long time. Now it turns out it's going to be a month because there's strikes happening. And so that's caused some issues. And so I don't know how long I won't have internet here. So we may have to deal with some talking over people a couple episodes.
And that's
more of a warning to Jill and Ryan there.
Everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
Everybody talk over each other. Wait, we got to do the line all talking over each other. Ready?
Okay.
That is going to be a nightmare to edit.
2, 1, go. Everybody
have a great week.
Have a great
week.
Remember,
the journey itself
is just as important as the
destination.
Figure we talked over each other the whole show.
Worked.
We might as well end it.
We might as well.
That was perfect.
I like it. You know how I'm proud of myself because actually
we did it.
I'm so proud of myself because I scrolled and I lost it, but I remembered it perfectly.
Yeah, look at you.
It only took 300 and whatever
300
episodes. Yeah.
Man, like an
See you next week, everybody.